Welcome everybody. How are we doing today? Welcome to a brand new Kobold Chats. If you've been here before, you know this is where we leak and release things. And wonderful Dot used to run the show, but she's passed the torch. I found a real one. I put it on this thing in the background for us. We have an actual torch now for everything that we're doing. With that said, hello everybody. We're going to be diving into the closing week here of Deep Magic. And on top of that, we're going to talk some Black Flag. We're going to have our senior designer on board today. I'm super excited to have her here. I have personally never spoke with her, so we're going to get into some just general talk on top of what it's like to design these two products, what she had involvement in, and where we're going from here. Obviously, we can't leak all the secrets, but we can do some stuff, right? You're in the background. You'll tell me some stuff that we can say that won't get me in trouble and fired immediately out of the first gate. With that said, we have a bunch of new stuff running in the background. We got some new overlays right now. We got our little Kobold friend over in this corner here. We're going to be doing some more stuff with him as well. I can only spill so many beans because honestly, I don't have them all. But how is everyone today? Have you guys been doing well? Is your week doing good? I was supposed to be on Broken Anvil this morning for their paint show, but unfortunately, they had a whole bunch of people fall a little ill, and they couldn't get me patched in time. But don't worry, we'll do it again. There's 2 miniatures. They only painted 1 today. Headache, still feeling bad, Allie, huh? Allie is a streamer for the, what is it? You changed the name. It used to be Ladies D&D. Now it's the Femme Gamer Party, and she's on my shows as well. Good friend of mine. Moxie's in chat as well. A bunch of new names. I apologize that I don't know everybody, but we will soon. So let's talk about, do I want to start with that? Nah, I don't want to start with Black Magic. I do want to start with our lovely Deep Magic. If you don't know, the Kickstarter is going to end this Friday. Because of everything that's happened with the OGL debacle, which we're not going to talk about here, that's been beaten too many times, and I just don't want to do it. But because of all of you, have done amazingly well with it, and we're super excited to bring Deep Magic Volume 1 and 2 together for this. There'll be more stuff going out. There's already playtest material for one of the classes out. I definitely want to talk to Celeste today about the class, because as someone who does design work, making classes is difficult. It's like one of the hardest things, I think, in tabletop to do. So we're going to dive into that a little bit today. You look good over there. I see you. I almost put my beanie on as well. I'll bring you in a second. But it's been a busy week at Kobold Press. We have been slaying it away over here as much as possible to get the packet out like we had promised. We've already done one update. There will be more. Just be patient. Remember, everybody, this is a play test. This isn't a final product. And we've invited you into the Warrens to help us kind of build this, because we want to make something that we all want. And that's not like a status thing that I'm being told to say. That's something I'm saying as obviously a fan of the company before I was here. So, I think we just dive into it here. Are you ready over there? Can you talk for me so I can see if I can hear you? Perfect. So let's just get into this. There's no reason really to mess around. Hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Happy to be here. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. I don't know if we've ever met in person. I do a lot of cons, but I don't know if you do.
I don't know. You look familiar. I might have seen you on a panel though, or in
that's
passing.
Possible. That's possible.
So that's always the way, right? People know each other.
Convention families are very small.
Yes.
They sound big, but they're really not. Like when everything gets torn down at the end of the night, it's a pretty quaint family, I will say, of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've been working and burning the midnight oil, it sounds.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, I'm not sure if Erik mentioned this before,
run it down.
Yeah, hey, everybody, my name is Celeste Conowitch. I'm the senior game designer at Kobold Press, and I am the lead project, designer on Project Black Flag. So as you can imagine, it's been a very busy, certainly a couple of weeks, definitely a few months.
Have you? Is this the first full big system build that you've done for Kobold?
A system rebuild, yeah, because I mean, Kobold Press has been, working in 5e for the past, years.
Yeah.
And so with them specifically, I've only worked on pure 5e products. So I was brought on as a freelancer just after we actually stopped making products for
Oh, okay.
Pathfinder 1.
I was in the PF1 crew doing stuff for them for a long time.
Yeah,
We might have
yeah.
ran in that circle.
We might have, yeah. So
Were
I've
you
been
one of the RPG
freelancing, yeah.
superstar people?
No,
No?
no,
Okay.
no, but I've been freelancing for Kobold Press forever, and when the job opening came up, I was like, heck yeah, love this team, so excited to be here doing it full time. So
That's before we dive into Deep Magic and Press, just a little bit because we haven't actually met, and
yeah,
I just started.
I know, just very briefly in a meeting,
Yes,
one
like
of those
hi
chaotic
bye kind
all
of
hands,
things. Yeah.
right.
So I have a couple questions. I worked in video games for almost 15 years, and
Awesome.
I worked on project management. These projects, when you have this many things moving, just in the background, like what we have in our company app that we use for everything. Do you have any processes that you put in place for keeping everyone wrangled when doing design work like this? Because that's a large scope to design. Your classes, what we used to know as races, which have been changed, which we'll talk about later, but also just your spells, how combat's going to work. Let's be honest, the 5e action economy sounds simple, but it's a little convoluted, actually.
Yes. Yeah, and that's something too that keeps coming up. It's like, oh, everyone's like, oh, 5e is great. Like, really how much has to change? And the question actually, well, there's actually quite a lot when you start really digging into what is going on. And since one of our huge goals is to make it easier and simplify things, like obviously that means on the back end the work is exponentially more complicated. So the simpler something becomes on the page, the more work it takes to get something to
a mere finish and a polish is hella hard to do.
Yes. Yeah. With making dice or anything.
Anything. Yes. I just had
right?
dice made for our other show. Yeah. That is 100% true. When going through this, do you take like 3 weeks? Like, obviously this came out of the blue. This was a side swipe. Like we all had inklings that something was going on with how we were going to see licensing change in the future, but we didn't know how quickly it was going to happen. And, Kobold decided, let's just go. Did you have something in place already for like the process for getting this thing rolling? Or did you go, okay, I need 2 weeks, just leave me alone for 2 weeks and let me crank out a process.
Let me go to the dungeon. No,
Yeah.
so we luckily, I think we mentioned it in one of our updates. We've actually been working on Project Black Flag since summer of last year. So we actually had quite a bit of lead time already doing early development and making some of those really big, hard, global changes that we were going to incorporate. So that was all rolling along nice and smoothly. Pretty much the instant I came on board at Kobold, we were already starting to do that. And then all of a sudden, January hit of this year and the giant PR disaster and nightmare of the OGL. And then we're like, all right, so our year timeline became like 3 months, and then like the Creative Commons are like, is it back to 6? What? You know what? Whatever. We just want to get this in the hands of people, and
you just pick your own timeline at that point.
Yeah.
There's really not much else you can do besides pick your own timeline.
Right.
So you had started this, you knew you were going to be doing it when you came on board. I know we've mentioned that in the past. It was kind of like I don't want to say a summer project, but it started in the summer. Like, hey, we're doing this. It's just not going to launch right away.
Summer project makes it feel so
we're going to be ready when some
fanciful.
other things come out that it kind of goes together. Like, welcome to Black Flag summer camp. When you started designing this, you played 5e a lot, I assume. Most designers play games. Like, there are a few that don't. Surprisingly, there are some people who don't play games.
I don't understand that. I mean,
because they work in a different industry that is like game design, but it's not tabletop. I didn't say it goes well. So when you sat down to start doing this and the global changes, there's a ripple effect, especially in the action economy mechanics and how that's going to work, how spell casting is going to work in the future, because we were already in deep magic development. And that's ends this Friday.
Right.
Was there any one thing, if you're allowed to talk about it, that you're like, this has to change no matter what?
Yes. So, I mean, as somebody who's been designing, I've had the privilege of designing 5th edition for basically the entire time it's come out.
Yeah.
And I've played I've played all the other editions. I ran 3.5 was the system I ran the longest. And, I did the thing where 3.5 came out, ran it for a bunch of years. 4E came out, played that for a year, went back to 3.5, and then they had to drag me kicking and screaming into 5th edition, that sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
But of course now I love it and I would never go back. 5th edition is great.
It's super fun. I think it cleaned up a lot of. I mean, 3.0 and 3.5 was the first time we've seen the industry in the dragon side of things push the envelope on what like a full polished design would look like.
Oh yeah.
And their whole, remember there was a CD in the back of the player's handbook.
Yeah. I still have that.
I do too.
Thing taped in
with
there.
Redgar on it or whatever his name was, and we're like, what is this nonsense?
What are we going here?
Oh man. And that whole wave really kind of changed, I think, design for designers.
Oh yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, freelancing
we can do something.
started becoming such a huge thing, and it became a lot more community-based sourcing, and other companies making books for the game. Like, it totally radicalized how we think about TTRPG design.
Yeah. And before we hit Black Flag, we're going to start with some deep magic, but I have one more question just to set the stage for what we're going to do, because obviously we are only releasing little bits at a time for Black Flag. This is a normal process for Q&A style when you're doing playtesting with companies on numerous things, not just tabletop, even in the video game industry. Sometimes you just put out a level and do this kind of stuff to run parallel. But we have a system that we're building in parallel with, not on top of. We're riding trains next to each other until we decide we're ready to kind of do our own thing. We want people to be able to use their 5e content coming over. And privately we've said, and I think publicly now, this isn't a one-for-one transfer. This is a parallel transfer. Like, yes, you can bring your stuff over. We want you to use our old products because it's part of our family as well. Do you have an idea of how you're gonna do a conversion? And is that gonna be towards the end of this? Because I can't imagine making how to convert 5e to Project Black Flag until it's done.
Well, actually, what we're trying to do, and of course, this is, going to be an imperfect product or process, especially while we're playtesting, but with each packet, we are aiming to give guidance on how to convert specifically what is going in the packet. So like in the playtest packet one, right there at the front, how to use this packet, we gave advice like, hi, if you want to make your 5e character like of equivalent to, a Black Flag character, just give them a feat or give them one of these talents. So we are going to aim for providing as much like conversion information through the process. Yeah, support basically. That is going to roll out to make this as easy as possible for folks so they don't get overwhelmed, because that was always one of the huge goals for us with Black Flag, was to make sure you didn't have to throw away the thousands of dollars you've invested in 5e products from Kobold Press or from anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many brilliant third-party publishers been making so much great stuff for 5th edition. It would be a shame to not have some way to bridge the systems here. So that's actually informing a lot of our designs. In the back of our head, it's always walking the tightrope of how much do we push this to change? Can we push this further and still like not sacrifice those products?
Right.
It's a very fine line to
Is it
walk.
Reinvent the wheel or just make the wheel better?
Yeah, or build like a frame on the wheel.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Cool,
like we still want tires, but a doper looking car.
Yeah.
So I 100% agree with that stuff as somebody outside. And I told Dot when we talked about me coming to do these things that I worked in design for a long time all over the place. And I feel that people don't understand it. All designers are kind of friends. We don't dislike each other. Like all the companies out there.
Oh, the biggest fans.
Oh, like, we're fanboys and girls, 100%. I think the biggest thing out of it, though, when the indie revolution started, we started seeing all the indie press, designers that were working for systems that were already out started going, how do I adopt this stuff?
Yes.
Like, I remember when Apocalypse World came out and I was like, why have I not been using clocks my entire life for background, mechanics? We do it in video games. Why don't I do it here? So I'm super excited to see what you come up with. Now let's get into a little bit of deep magic. What did you work on Deep Magic? Are you allowed to say at this point?
Yeah. I think I was very lucky. I got to do a lot in Deep Magic. So that was like the first official, like, I'm leading this project as the senior game designer for Kobold Press. So
nice.
my hands are kind of everywhere through it. So I did a lot of work on styles and spells and everything throughout. And I've been able to work hands-on with all the freelancers who are working on the book as well to help them, discuss and then develop their content is one of the big things I do as a senior game designer. So I guess my sticky little fingers have kind of been all over this book, which has been super fun for me because I love magic. I am all about wizards. I always play wizards. That's why I'm really excited for Black Flag Packet 2, but keep your eye out.
Were we okayed for that?
I don't
feel like
know.
a kobold's biting my ankle right now.
No, we said at least there's classes coming in Packet 2. Maybe now you just know which one. Yeah, so I got to do so much fun stuff with this, and like we mentioned, I had the benefit of knowing that Black Flag was in the background, so we really got to push the envelope on a lot. Yeah,
you got to redirect
Deep Magic, right? Yeah. So we have some new subsystems in there and testing some ideas, and like really, this book was just so much fun to make.
Do you know? Did you do the class? The new classes?
The class. I worked on developing the classes. So I got to work with our two brilliant
I think that's
folks.
kind of where I want to start. I don't think people understand. When you jam a class into a system, you are breaking everything.
Oh yeah, you've got. I mean,
you better pre-drill the hole for the screw so you don't splinter the wood. Like it is a pain
class
to do.
design is hard,
but everyone thinks anyone can do
it. Oh, well, everyone thinks everyone is a game designer, so that's what the internet tells me.
What I said years ago, and I stand by this to the end of time. There's a reason archetypes were invented.
Yes.
It's so that you don't have to make a class. It's the only reason. It's not the flavor. It's because classes are like, all hands on deck, we're building a class.
Yep.
And everyone goes, but yay,
I'm so excited to see it's done. Oh no, we have to get there. Is usually the response.
And so we had the playtest packet internally for the Theurge. I'm going to bring us over to that so we can see. I know you probably have that somewhere. You probably know it inside out, or if you have the stream up.
I do. I got to do a lot of great dev with Mark Rattle, who worked on it.
I only have one copy of it, so if this is an old one, you get to correct me while we do it, which is totally fine by me. So we're going to go to the info here, and this is our playtest packet that came out for this. And it's just a black and white, very simple, very clean. Nothing crazy.
Oh yeah, so we did make some major changes.
Yeah, this is an
old
one. Is there a new one? Yeah. I will go download it if you have it.
I mean, there's a new one in the manuscript that's with editors. But maybe I can find that for you. Hang on.
I mean, if you do, just throw it in our chat. I'll download it and repop it up in here. It'll propagate pretty easily. But there's a lot to do in a class. There's 20 levels. Stuff.
And then also, of course, you have to do 3 subclasses as well, at least 2 whenever you do it. So it's really, when you say class, it's taken on a lot.
Yeah. So when you were designing this, what was the goal for bringing a new magic casting class into a system? Because you already have a mage, you have a sorcerer, and you have divine casting, and then you got this little sub ones like your bards and stuff like that. Paladins, they have casting. What was the goal of making a new casting class? Was it something that you guys you saw a niche that was missing?
Yeah, so I mean, for this, I should say, so again, Mark Rattle was the person who actually incepted and built the original version of the class, and then I just worked with him on dev stuff. So this was all definitely Mark's like shiny big idea. So I just want to give credit where it's due. And then for this, so the Theurge actually has a really interesting history in D&D already. So it's appeared in older editions. 3.5 had some Theurge type stuff, and it's usually been adjacent to like psionic material and stuff. So there was a precedent built for the Theurge, and we've absolutely had people like requesting, that this gets brought into 5th edition. So I guess that was the inception of like, why not go ahead and start there, right? So we, looked at that demand, and then honestly, a lot of this book and what made Deep Magic so fun was because we could just go, you know what would be cool? What would be so cool that we're like missing right now? And so the idea of combining these two like vastly different spell lists is just such a tantalizing idea.
What was it in 3.0 or 3.5? There was the class, the prestige class that got arcane and divine. I cannot remember the name of it offhand.
I can see the art in my mind.
Me too. That's exactly what I was thinking. Because it was Wayne Reynolds, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think it was
so.
War.
Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, there's a lot of really cool combinations like that we saw in 3.5, which was combining, you know, vastly different spell lists. And then what's also extra fun about the Thurge is, you know, that's the root of it, right? It takes those two, like, what does it mean to be a divine and an arcane caster at the same time? But then also, what does it mean to be a person that's so talented that you can shape magic in that extreme way? Yeah. So a lot of their features are really about the cerebral aspects of, like, how can I recombine these tools, make them different, like... It's a really, really neat class. Really great for spellcasting.
Mystic
nerds.
Theurge. That's right, Draxus. Thank you.
Yes,
Mystic Theurge.
Yes, and we did name one of the subclasses the Mystic in honor of that.
You got it. You put the two together, you still have the name. It's like cookies and milk. So I love that it's a Libram, by the way. It's one of my favorite words in tabletop.
Yeah.
There's just something about the like ambiance of saying, "Oh, I have a Libram." And everyone goes, "Well, you have a what?" You're
like, yeah. Thurgic Libram, and you're like, "Whoa, that sounds so cool."
We did our stream this week. I didn't get to use it. He had his encased in ice and was using it as a flail.
Whoa.
And I didn't get to do it because they downed him in like 2 seconds because they surprised him. That's okay. Oh. He's not dead. He has a necromantic heart. We're fine.
Of course. Yeah, we're fine.
He's got an ice encased necromantic heart. So it was super fun to see it. Is there a mechanic out of here that the team is super proud of?
Ooh, boy. So we did spend, I mean, okay, I think I actually did just drop you the new...
It's a doc, though.
V2.0.
It's a docs.
Oh, yeah, I don't have
I need
this
a PDF,
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
it's okay.
So one of the really interesting things we did, because one of the cornerstones of this design that was really tricky was superior focus, which actually allows a character to concentrate on 2 spells at once, which, of course, bam, whoa, like, so polarizing. Immediately, people were like, that's going to break the game, that's so cuckoo bananas, like, blah, was, you know, obviously
Does
what we
it,
got.
though?
But we did build a lot of, like, okay, how do we make this work in a way that doesn't break the game wide open? What kind of limitations do we have to play with? So we got to really dig into, like, what does it mean to feel like you're maintaining concentration on 2 spells? So, like,
it feels like being a designer and balancing 2 projects.
Exactly. So it feels like tearing you apart, right?
It
like
does.
Having to, like, separate your mind. So obviously we have some limitations on there. Like, one has to be arcane, one has to be divine. You have to make concentration checks round after round after round to
Act of
maintain
faith
this.
versus mental concentration.
Right, so it's like a huge psychic toll that is taken on the Thurge to be able to
what
do
was
this.
What was that called here? I'm gonna pull that up.
Superior focus. And I will say, so this is an older version of the doc. It's changed pretty significantly from here, but we did put a lot of like limits that feel really nice.
Let me see. Well, what did you change? I think I can get this doc in while you're talking.
Yeah, so I mean that's essentially what we added here. We added those limitations on top of it. So
did this go through like play testing that caused that to change?
Yes. So we this is V1. This is what went out in our first play test. And then we ran a second play test with it as well after we incorporated a bunch of the changes. And of course we did our internal play tests as well. So it went through quite a few phases of play testing to change it from the doc that you see here. Obviously with a base class, you've just got to do play testing, like,
you don't have
so much harder than anything else, right?
There you go. I converted it and just brought it over. Yeah, it's like I do this stuff.
It's great. Thank goodness you're doing it. I'm like, ooh, I am a creative type, unfortunately, so my files and my drives are a disaster.
I teach OBS and streaming using Photoshop and layers as a cake, like building a cake. That's how I teach it. So this is very different, actually. Yes, so now we can go down to it. What was? Let's see here. Where are you at?
So superior focus.
I just want to point out the appearance. Your Libram's unique compilation of spells with its own decorative flourishes and margin notes. I get the Necronomicon feel here a little bit.
Well, I think, because we also wanted to emphasize, because the Libram is so much more than just a spell book, right? There's absolutely a mystical connection between the Libram and... I think we lost the camera.
Nah, it's okay. They can still hear me. I'm fixing it.
All right. Cool.
They can still hear me.
All right. So we were almost there. If you keep going. Scrolling down.
I have it open. You're just on delay. Superior focus is split between the two.
Yeah, superior focus. Great. Yeah, so 7th level, you can simultaneously maintain 2 spells. So like we said, it got to be wizard, got to be from the cleric spell list, and you have to make this Constitution saving throw, so your concentration at the beginning of each round, you attempt to maintain concentration. And on top of that, of course, if anything would normally, like, you know, you'd take damage or you'd have to make that concentration check, you're doing it at disadvantage just because of the toll that this is like taking on maintaining you. And of course, if you lose one spell, you lose both. So it's a big risky mechanic.
So risk reward for it for sure.
Yes.
When designing around 5e as it is, before we get into this black flag, advantage and disadvantage to me as a designer was like a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
And I don't mean it because it's advantage and disadvantage. I mean because it's limited. Once you give it out, it's either a wash or nothing at all.
Right.
When you're applying stuff like this, do you have like a checklist of things that apply advantage to like concentration, how it functions? So you go, all right, they can get this from like 5 other things. Is this really worth our time?
Yeah. So I mean, one of the biggest goals I always have with design, and what I encourage people to start with, is learn as much as you can about similar things that exist, and then make something new. If it already exists, don't do it. Find something else. And what's incredible is, like, and why 5e is such a great design framework, especially to start with something like Black Flag, is because there is so much room for expansion. We've seen it. I mean, companies have been succeeding for years on making subsystems and companion products and taking what is actually a very simple core rule set at its heart and building on these additions. So it's an incredible framework. So the challenge really is finding something that hasn't been done, and how can you play with those little mechanics in a new and exciting way. So like concentration, for instance, I feel like a lot of players in particular, like it's kind of nebulous or weird. Like it's a very weird part of spellcasting. So when you invite people in to engage with this mechanic more thoroughly, you're inviting them to find clever ways to build it and use it. I imagine a third at your table is going to really make a DM think a lot more about how they can work with concentration and how their villains might notice somebody casting a spell, and then really like
I think that GMs, as someone who does pro level GMing and competition storytelling, they get lost in the mechanic sauce and forget that the flavor, the mechanics are to boost your flavor. And something like the Librum and the being able to dual concentrate just adds those movie moments that you don't get otherwise. So just step back for a minute and let your players be cool. Like, let them have their moment, and then let your villains do it too. Mechanic sauce. Correct. You got it, Chris. So is there anything else about the class that you want to touch on before we just quickly touch on the Kickstarter itself?
Have you checked out the Witch class in DM2? Because this is the Thurge, which is appearing in our remastered version of Deep Magic 1, but we actually have an entirely second new class that's
on the
also going to
Kickstarter
come in Deep Magic 2.
So let's let me pull it up. I'll get to it for you.
The Witch I'm very, very excited for.
It's in your last name.
I know, right?
You have the most
right
player character name of all time.
I know. I get people all the time who are like, wow, cool pen name. I'm like, nope, that's
not you.
That's just what it is.
My real name.
But it just happened to really work well with my field of interest.
Yes. So I'm looking at the Kickstarter site. That was one of our stretch goals, right? To unlock the Witch?
No, so the Witch was in the
out of the gate.
From the
beginning.
Out of the
gate.
Yeah.
You guys are too nice to people.
So these were, I will say, both the Thurge and the Witch base classes were the absolute first thing that went out into play testing, because we knew from the beginning we were going to do these and really wanted to give them their weight and their due.
Oh, okay.
So I love the Witch base class. I'm very excited to have it at my table. So
give us a highlight. What do you like the most? And then is that in a packet that can download through the Kickstarter? So I'll drop a link.
I bet I can. Oh, I can get you the playtest packet that's pretty close to the final version. So this was our doing the file dance. Thank you all.
Hey, that's okay. This is what happens when you show up to a show and everything is in motion.
And everything is happening. No,
like we are on a train throwing newspapers out at houses right now. Like, take our stuff.
I feel like there's so much happening right now at Kobold Press. It is so exciting.
Try coming into it.
Oh God, I know. I say often now these days in meetings, I'm like, Hello. Every day is like a year right now with just the amount of things happening.
Dot goes, you ready for this? I was like, yeah, it'll be fine. She's like, well, we got a lot closing, going, everything at once. I hope you're ready. I'm like, yeah, it'll be fine. Let's get the thinking cap on. Let's rock and roll. And then I saw everything. I was like, oh, you are doing 2 things at once.
Oh, I see.
I see.
Only 2.
You're pain. Only 2 public-facing things at once.
Yes.
There's other things too. Like we have micro releases, things like that have come out too. Like it's kind of ridiculous.
We got like our Book of Blades series. That's an ongoing, basically a bunch of support for martial characters in particular. I mean, we're wrapping up some of our previous Kickstarters. Like Waste of Chaos is in the final phases of like, you know, printing and getting ready to go out to backers. So there's a lot of moving parts for sure. And you know, of course, we got to start working. I'm working with freelancers developing projects, you know, for books that haven't even been announced yet.
Yeah.
So quite a bit going on.
Is working with a team of freelancers? Are you, how many do you have working on Black Flag?
We have a lot. Obviously, this is a huge project, and so we are so grateful for all the support we're getting from partners on every side of this. So I mean, we're working with every VTT in the world, and a bunch of other publishing companies, and of course our freelancers who have we have a great pool of freelancers for Kobold Press, and you know we're looking especially for new folks too, new voices to bring in on this project. So
where do they, if they're interested in doing something like that, as a designer who's made it in one of the big 3, like we're top of the chart for like being and making stuff right now, which is just so wild to say, by the way. What do you recommend for people to put in their like portfolios and stuff if they are applying to companies out there?
Yeah, I mean, get a wide array of stuff for sure, because you never know what exactly companies are looking for. And so when I say like have a great subclass, you know, have some great spells you've designed, have some great magic items, have a great adventure. The more you can do to show the diversity of what you can write is going to be great, because a designer who shines, you know, writing a monster stat block and shines writing an adventure, like that's very impressive. So if you can do that, you know, cultivate your different talents. Also, don't work in a vacuum.
No.
A lot of the time, if you can say, "Hi, I worked on this project with these 15 other people," like, and you know, we did this, and I want to go and talk to those people and ask them what was the experience of like working with you.
Being a designer, you work in a vacuum while you design your stuff, and then you have to release it to the rest of the team. Or you have to start in the beginning working with a team, go do your part, bring it back, and you have to cut the same puzzle pieces so they fit together. And that's the art of it all. Yeah. And if you don't work with other people and you're a solo designer, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to work with a company that has multiple people, they have to know you work well as a team.
Just because it's such a hard industry, especially in terms of like feedback. I'm not sure if you all are watching, you know, the Black Flag feedback, but it's not it's not a nice industry.
You gotta have
we have here.
The boisterous ones aren't always the kindest.
Right, yes.
But like we have people in chat here who are literally saying, God bless you all every day for spending and making amazing products. I mean, that kind of stuff that feed us.
But there is, you have to definitely be able to handle criticism that's justified or unjustified in this world. So that's a huge part of like being a designer. So the faster you can, you know, cultivate how you take feedback, how you incorporate feedback, how you learn, how you grow, usually that's a lot more interesting to me in a potential candidate than somebody who's like, I've designed these 15 things. I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't really tell me how you would work in a team.
Stepping away is the hard part.
Yeah.
It really is. The hard
yes. I know it's like a constant thing, you know, I'll write something and then it's all good, whatever, it goes to editing and then it goes to layout, then it goes to art, then it goes to this, and it's like a year before I actually see it in a book and people are like, congratulations on that thing you wrote. I was like, oh, is that out?
You're like, oh,
cool, thanks.
I'm sorry, that child went to college. I forgot about them.
Oh, yeah, no, art, that's so cool. Like,
that is exactly what it feels like.
Oh, that book finally came out.
Oh god, it has a cover now. I'm glad it can dress itself. So it's so true.
I think it was especially so. I wrote on Rime of the Frost Maiden for Wizards of the Coast. I think that was probably the longest turnaround time. It was almost like a year and a half before like it went from
a lot of hands in that one.
You know, submitting my draft to Chris Perkins to like a year and a half later, like seeing the book in print. I was like, oh, cool, this is so cool. That was a long time to sit on a secret. Let me tell you what.
So I got our witch up here, so we can see the witch.
Cool.
Let me.
Oh yeah, this also has a bunch of other. So this was our playtest document. So it has some other subclasses
For playtest and streaming only. So
yeah,
it says that now at least.
Whoops.
So what do you want to talk about on this one before I start asking questions?
So the witch was a very cool challenge, I think, in a lot of ways, because we wanted a caster that sort of did like what the warlock does for, wizard in a way. So a slightly half caster, almost feeling like a bard. So there were a lot of things that were like, what do we want this to do? So we took a lot of inspiration from like the bard class. We took a lot of inspiration actually from the artificer as well, and tried to create.
It's one of my favorite classes of all time.
Right, and of course, and we can't like. Well, for now, as the artificer, we can't make that base class, but one of the benefits of Black Flag.
Just spell it differently.
So with the witch, we implements and spirit bindings are a big thing that we did that was new for this class. So essentially, this is you get your choice of like what you want to imbue a spirit into, and this is an object that you can use that interacts with your spell casting. So obviously, we have things like your witch's cauldron.
Yeah.
You can choose to do this, and this gives you boosts to your own health and allows you to boost the health of others. Whereas
like a shared pool.
Exactly. So or you could choose things like we have Night Flyer, which is you can bind a spirit into a broom that can fly around and animate. Such. Oh yes.
Get your Hogwarts / classic Wicked Witch vibe on.
Get it on. We also have the candle, the bell, all of these very cool, traditional, witch tools. And we got to give them mechanics that also, too, as you pick these bindings, they level up in power as you do. So once you hit a certain witch class level, your implement automatically, because you can bind more powerful spirits into these implements.
I wish this was around when I was designing my home setting, which is a soul punk Victorian horror.
Oh yeah,
I wish was needed for that, and they finally put some stuff similar, but it just wasn't there. I do somewhere in this room have the cauldron that Beetle and Grimm made. Natasha's cauldron. It's my candy dish when I'm streaming. I don't know where it is right now.
Oh no candy.
Yeah, no candy. Yeah. I got coffee that'll work for now. Yeah. So, is there anything else out of this? What was the most difficult thing? I guess it's probably, as a designer, I want to know, what did you have to redo every time you went back to this class?
So for the witch in particular, we went back and forth with how the spells should work several times, because at first we had
how you gain
a model,
them or your list,
and how many you have access to. So at first in our first playtest, it was a model that was very similar to the warlock, where you really only have a very limited number of spell slots, and you don't learn very many spells. And then we went back and we
dissatisfying.
Yeah, and I think it works for the Warlock because they had things like Eldritch Blast and stuff, but it missed for our first version of the Witch, right? So we went back to the drawing board, and we actually ended up, working okay, is it prepared versus known? We had that debate, and then we eventually landed on something that actually works very similar to how the Bard does, where they have, this many spells, you get to pull them, whatever it is, you don't have to prepare them, but this is your process. And then that actually worked great, because one of the implements that we introduced as a choice is, of course, your Book of Shadows. So if you want to play a more expanded, Book of Shadows.
Is it literally shadow pages?
No, so it's your spell book.
Oh, okay. I was like, yes, please.
Yes. So what you can do, if you want to make the witch more customizable, you can, of course, take that, and then you get to learn more spells.
In chat, Fox asks, is the witch arcane or divine magic?
So actually, connected to the druid spell list primarily. So technically, arcane.
Classic.
Yes. So like the bard gets a limited version of the the arcane, the wizard spell list. The witch gets a limited version of the druid spell list.
Nice. And it has its own doctored list, right? It's made for it.
So it's got its own doctor list, and we also, of course, because it's deep magic, we have hundreds of new spells coming out. We also have some really killer witch specific spells, all about summoning masses of spirits to plague.
Is there one called Hansel and Gretel cookies?
A cookie spell. I don't think we have a cookie spell.
There should be a cookie spell.
One in there. Missed opportunity.
Did you? Now the real question, the most important, obvious, is did you make one after your last name?
After my last name. No, so again,
Because that is
Scott,
made for a wizard spell or a witch spell.
Right. I need a Conowitch spell. That'd be more like a rogue. I feel like an arcane
No,
trickster.
Conowitch. It's the it's the eat the apple spell.
Do it. Maybe one day.
She's like, now I know what I have to do in my
When
spare
I'm
time that I
feeling,
don't have.
When I need to wade deep into the hubris.
People are saying there should be a cookie spell. 100% should be a cookie spell.
I'm sorry, that's on me. I didn't put a cookie spell in this book.
I mean, there's a team. You get to blame everybody. That's how teams work.
Yeah, right.
We missed a minute. It'll happen. So is there anything else before we talk about the close of the Kickstarter? Is there anything else about the Deep Magic 1 and 2 you want to talk about before we dive into why I know everybody is here?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just want to say, like, Deep Magic was one of our most successful books ever. It is right now. As of today, according to what I was just saw in my pop-up, this is the best we have done. Right. It's so awesome. Well, even just the original Deep Magic book that came out 3-4 years ago. So a lot of people, when they're asking, like, why are you redesigning, Deep Magic 1 as part of this Kickstarter? Why aren't you just making the new book? I'm really, really excited that we're turning back to such a classic Kobold Press book and giving it that glow up and that reorganization and just enhancing player usability that everybody
100%.
sorely deserves. So that's actually one of my favorite parts of this whole process, is getting to redesign and glow up a classic. And then, of course, getting to make more awesome magic.
Here, this is for you. I put it in our conversation between us. Someone said, Conwitch's crumbling cookie.
Yes.
There you go.
Good. There we go.
That is what a designer feels like on week 7 on 3 hours of sleep and coffee. It's the crumbling mental state.
Would be great. Yeah. I've been there too often.
Oh, I feel like I live on that line a lot.
Live
of
on that planet, whatever planet it is.
Yeah,
I'm there and I don't like it. No.
So I'm gonna pull up our page really quick here just to quickly chat about our Kickstarter.
Yes.
We broke 750 today, which is,
oh my gosh,
mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, we're getting so close to our biggest Kickstarter ever.
I know.
It was Toma Beast 3, and what was it, 776?
Yeah, yes. We're gonna have to have a drinking party if that happens. I'm just saying.
Everybody gets fancy mage wine.
Fancy mage wine. Look, I worked in the bar industry for a long time. I'm Cicerone certified. Let's go. I will find some way to get us drinks at our next convention. So this closes out on Friday, everybody. Broken Anvil today just did a multi-broadcast of painting one of the 2 miniatures that's also part of the backing piece now. Cool. They're gorgeous. Those are going to be first come for Kickstarter backers as a heads up. Those will release sometime. I think we're aiming for end of March and April for purchase, but that's not confirmed. That's just been, how do we make this happen as quick as possible for the backers? On top of that, we've hit so many stretch goals. We have digital ones. Like, look at all the VTTs.
I feel like every single week we've been meeting to come up with more stretch goals for this project.
You guys, we were in it to win it. We had a bunch, and then we were like, we're like,
wow, okay, more, okay, more.
Like you could see,
heck yeah.
look, it's like color coded, art, grayscale.
Oh, grayscale. We passed our pie in the sky, and we're like, all right, more.
We're still gonna give stuff to you. So this is going on. At the bottom of this list, you can see the mailing list, the YouTube, Discord, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, follow us. Twitter is where we put out a lot of socials, but honestly, our mailing list is killer. And our blog, Jeff crushes it over there, making a lot of really cool stuff. We got some stuff that's running in tandem with things that we have coming out, so make sure you're RSSing that. But let's... I think we go to the big bad in the room right now, right? We got to go to the thing everybody wants to talk about. Are you ready? Do you need a breath? Do you need a shot?
Okay, I got my tea. I'm ready.
All right. So this has been in the making since summer. You have decided that we needed to have a move forward quicker on this one. Let me see if I can pull up our dual cam. You wanted to make something that runs parallel to 5e without upsetting the ecosystem too much. And now the first packet has come out, and we all didn't sleep. So
we all have not slept.
We all have not
Monday.
No, since Monday. We were all in, like, it's Valentine's Day. My lady's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "We're waiting."
We're all silently watching.
We are waiting.
The download link. Yes, it is here. The first playtest packet of
1.1 already.
Flag is here. Yeah, 1.1 already. It is here, and it is in people's hands. We've had thousands and thousands of people download it, and it is so exciting that we are finally getting to show off.
Tens of thousands.
Almost 40,000 people.
What I would say is, and that was up to today, what I would say is this. I think the hardest part about gaming in tabletop is knowing your group also wants to play it. So like when you buy into the shelf of games, but most of them collect dust because one other person wanted to play it with you. When you have this many people, and then we have an organized play group for Midgard, obviously. We've already announced for Gen Con that we're going to be doing some stuff. There are going to be people playing this that have shown a mass amount of interest, and we're not even done yet. So with that said, we should talk a few bullet points on the packet. Number one, it's a play test.
Yes.
If you are in the first wave of the packet, there is a piece you can fill out telling us what you think, what you like, how to do it. There's a forum, whole 9 yards. There's a link, if I'm mistaken. It's actually right in the playtest.
It's right
at
in
the very top.
Yeah,
you
right
click
there,
that,
right there.
give the feedback. That will close the 27th because there will be
a pretty
another
short window.
Yeah, very short.
We're getting ready for another one.
But it's 12 pages. Like, look, we're adults here. That's sitting on the shitter and reading. Like, you can read 12 pages.
You can do it.
You can do it. I have faith in you. Or have it read it to you, which is what I did. Don't ever do that, by the way. Having audio read to you of a tabletop RPG book is very odd.
I would say that's very confusing, but
it's hilarious.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool when people offer it, though. I love that we do our Kobold guides. We have audiobook versions of them, and I'm like, oh, what a cool idea. So
we have this. The packet is out. There are some things we can talk about. We obviously can't answer every question. Don't worry, there will be an AMA in the future on our Discord channel. That is something that we will do. In there, you can follow our Discord. There's links down below in our Twitch. But our Discord is popping. We went from I think it was 1,500 to over 8,000 people when Black Flag was announced.
There's so much great discussion going on.
Yes.
So if you ever want to get involved in that, I highly recommend joining the Discord. I absolutely watch the Discord too,
we stalk.
I could get direct feedback.
We stalk.
So it is so if you want your opinions considered, please fill out the playtest form. And then also get involved in the growing community that is already happening there on our Discord.
Number 2, I'm going to say it again, it's a playtest. There are going to be editing errors and grammar errors because we are pumping this out to get it in your hands so that we can move forward as swiftly as possible. So if the word "the" and a comma bothers you somewhere in it, don't worry. We're professionals. It's going to get changed in the long haul. Yeah. It's going to get changed. We saw some people worried about that. It's just because we wanted to get it out as our Valentine's Day gift to you.
Yeah, we love you. We wanted to give you something. Please don't break our hearts.
Yeah, please don't break our hearts.
Please don't break our hearts. I know. What's really encouraging, like a weird encourage about this, is people are upset that there wasn't more content in the packet.
That's a great.
I'm like, that's such a good problem. People are like,
don't you worry.
This isn't enough. And I'm like, I know. Actually, that's something we talked about. We went back and forth, how much content to put in these packets, and we really decided that having focused smaller packets was the way to go, so we could truly get great feedback. Because if you inundate people with an entire game at once at playtesting, that's way too much.
It drowns it, and it's hard to sort.
Yes.
If you get all that in for let's say it's a 200-page manual. Could you imagine having to edit Rollmaster when that came out? If we went through this process.
It's also too because we are looking at basically subsystems as they are rolling out, and the thing is we are still absolutely incorporating your feedback, and everything you say in the playtest goes into it, and it would be impossible to really take the feedback and incorporate it and change things quickly if we were releasing bigger, chunkier packets. Because if we had everything was already designed for the whole game and set in stone, unfortunately that means that you'd be a lot less inclined to change anything about the design.
And the ripple effect hits. You change one thing and everything else changes. If we do it in these bite size, it really lets us design something that not only KP wants us, but the audience wants.
But the audience wants us.
So that's important.
Yeah, and this is huge. I mean, this is a huge part. Again, people are asking, like, why? Why rebuild 5e for Black Flag? Why not make a new system? And the thing is, this is a love letter for 5e players.
Yeah,
this whole thing, what we are doing is keeping 5e here. We're making it better. We're doing the things that folks want to see, because 5e is honestly, it's getting old in the life cycle of RPGs.
Yeah.
And there are definitely problems with it. And we
is.
want to fix them. So we want to hear your feedback. We want to know what it is that you want us to address. And we're going to do it for you.
What is it? Flower Crown Gaming says, "Woo! Hey Celeste." So apparently, it must be someone who knows you.
Yes, for my Venture Maidens community.
Nice.
Hi.
So we had some questions at the top, and I will say this again: playtest. There will be errors. We will correct them. The number one thing, as someone who was a art major into media and business, learn constructive criticism, because you are more likely to hear your voice heard if it's constructive than it's destructive. Destructive doesn't get anywhere. We're not knocking buildings down here, everybody. We're building a better house. So, and that's coming from someone whose last name says Frankhouse in it. So please be constructive in it. Learn. Watch a YouTube video on how to be constructive. We are taking the time to dive through all this stuff with you. Take the time to learn how to give us good feedback, because the better the feedback is, the better we can do.
Yeah, so I mean, just as a splash in general, so you all know, the most useful feedback is the people in the moderate road, you know, because if you have someone who gives feedback that says, I hate it, you can't do anything.
No,
with
edge case means it wasn't for you.
Right, same with, I love it. It's like, oh, we love hearing that.
Love you too.
What did you like? What do we, okay, I guess we're good now. Like, I don't have to worry about you. So
but still say we love you. We like you.
Yeah, I mean, yes, please, if you want to tell us that. I mean, we do, we see it all, so thank you. We love that. But yeah, I mean, we are getting so much thoughtful feedback, and that has been really great.
Yeah.
I will say also, I know we have coming out on our blog series soon on the Kobold Press website, we actually have an article coming out that's about how to give feedback on the playtest. So keep your eyes out for that.
Thumbs up, Jeff.
Yeah, thumbs up, Jeff. You rock. So we are trying to, you know, put those tools in your hands, and we really do want our community to be a big part of this game in its final form. So thank you all for all of you already taking the time to give thoughtful feedback and make your voices heard.
So here's my question to you about this process and what we're going through. There's a lot of ones in here. Someone, obviously, some people, Cash, you showed up a little later. Totally cool. The Black Flag, will it have a conversion table to moving a character adventure from 5e to P to Black Flag?
So that is one of our big goals with this, step by step through the packets, and then also, of course, in the final version, we want to give people as many tools as possible to make it easy for you to keep using whatever base 5e products you have. So this is going to be advice like how to build your character to this, how to use this option from 5e with this option from, you know, Black Flag, and then how to convert these adventures. So that is a huge goal that we are keeping in mind, and something we are absolutely striving to make as easy as possible.
And I would like to reiterate, conversion is probably the wrong word. It runs parallel.
Yeah,
it's not a one-for-one.
Right. So it is backwards compatible, but there are things that are changing about the system.
Yeah.
We are trying to do it in a way that is not going to make GMs want to die. And so we're trying to do it all, basically. We're trying to give you something new that addresses the problems while also making it as easy as possible for you to see the lines of how it could connect. So it is not a one-for-one. It was never supposed to be. Think of it more like a 5-5, honestly. But yeah, we're going to be here every step of the way trying to hold your hands and make it as easy as possible.
There's some good ones in here. I will say, if you're asking questions in here, because this doesn't have a really good Q&A option, just put a Q before your question, so when I'm scrolling, I can see that it's a question. I don't want to miss it. This isn't a full AMA. We're not going to get through everything. We are going to do an AMA in the future. We want some more to you before we come back with an AMA filling out questions. We're going to take this first packet and kind of go through it. We do have an AMA this Friday for our Deep Magic on Discord. Yes. So if you want to see how we do that, it's an audio AMA. We go through and do everything. It gets put out in a podcast later, so you can listen to it while you're jogging or doing whatever it is you're doing. If it's Valentine's Day, don't tell me why you're listening to it and doing it. So we do have a couple other ones in here before we pull the packet up. They asked... what is this? Fallen Phoenix. How do you guys think that BF will influence 1D&D and vice versa? I don't know if it will.
I don't know.
We're really not aiming at that. We're just we're staying in our lane and making something awesome.
I can say, I mean, I think we all can say with certainty, we don't really know what's going on at Wizards of the Coast at any given second of any day. So,
and it's sad because we have a lot of friends there. I personally do. I don't know about you. I personally do as
well. I've worked with a lot of the people.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. So, like, we don't know. Hopefully positive. We don't want anything negative.
Yeah, I mean, we all love this game, and we're all, trying to make
it's
it
a hobby we get to work in, which is killer. Like, that doesn't happen often. Other than that, obnoxious? No, you're fine. Nothing obnoxious here, Dover. We know text doesn't always transfer the best. Look, I'm horrible at writing. That's what Grammarly's for. I'm a designer. I am not a writer. I don't make novels. So the next one is there a character sheet incoming before the feedback due date? I don't think that's on the docket.
No,
it'll probably be later packet.
Yes, so we are waiting to release a usable character sheet until we have the full everything you need to make a class. So
more data to fill it out.
Yeah, because essentially right now if we handed you a character sheet, you'd be able to fill in part of it, but not the whole thing. So once we have all the class
character sheets are my jam. I've made so many for companies, so I can't wait to see what we do for it as a designer.
Well, and I mean, the coolest thing is like working with all these VTT partners.
Oh yeah.
You might be able to get to see some really cool stuff.
I would say keep tuning in for chats because we're definitely going to have some of those partners on as we go through all the partners that we have. We want to talk to them, hear what they're excited about, what they're doing, whole 9 yards. So let's scroll down a little more before I pull up the chat here. So I think it was eFail. You're right. There is not a lot in the first packet. It's a small packet. It's a bite-sized morsel.
We're doing it focused.
It's the appetizer.
So we can really get that focused feedback. And I know it's such a bummer that we can't give you everything all at once, but this really does help us
it's a process.
Be able to listen to your feedback more closely by giving you just the smaller chunks.
Well, it's a process. Like we said earlier, in case you came in late, we have to do bite size so that we can digest it and give it back in a manner that is constructive. So don't worry, there will be more. I promise.
Lots more. So much more. Yes.
And there's some other things that you'll see. We are going to put a FAQ out as well. So keep around and follow our stuff. We're going to have a frequently asked questions so we can answer a lot of this because then we can answer new stuff here and put it into the FAQ. That's kind of one of my goals moving forward. Are you planning to do changes to the skill system? I don't know if we're allowed to talk about that yet.
Keep your eye on future packets.
Can you say how many packets we're doing? Are you allowed to say that?
We have
keep your eye on future packets.
Keep your eye out. We'll see. Exactly.
Trust
we do
me.
have plans to release a schedule of our full packets and stuff. But
we just wanted to get something now.
Right. We wanted to get it rolling now because we had all this stuff that was starting to build and taking shape. So we wanted to get you all involved in this process as soon as possible. Because Black Flag has always been about you and how much we all love 5e. So we thought it was absolutely necessary to get you involved in it right now.
We have two really good questions here. I'm going to move us over to our info one so people can see it. We're going to switch over to the packet. And it's about dwarves specifically.
Cool.
So one of the things we put in here was the dwarves. They asked a question, was the choice to lower the speed of dwarves and assumably small lineages to 25 compared to the standard 30, as well as small lineages having equipment limitations purely because those rules exist in 5e, or was there another reason behind it? It seems to limit smaller characters with, at the moment, no benefits. Thank you for the at the moment. That is constructive criticism.
Yeah, that is great. So currently right now, honestly, it was just in there because it was a holdover from 5e. We are absolutely looking at it because it's really interesting that we're getting feedback like your question about this. So this is why the playtest feedback is important because these things, maybe we didn't even think do people hate that? Whoa. Interesting. So that is why it's in there. I can say already in the new version that we uploaded v1.1.
This is 1.1.
Oh yeah. So in the hand-to-hand section, we actually did remove the penalty that smaller characters have less damage with their unarmed strike in this version. That was a holdover from an edit that didn't quite make it in there. So at least that penalty is no longer on there. But yeah, we are definitely going to be looking at that because it has come up so much.
I'm assuming you have an internal checklist as things come up. You're like, all right, everything
yeah.
goes through the filter of, is this something that carries over, or is
Right.
this something that needs the Kobold touch?
Yeah, yeah, and well, and that's the thing. It's like a project like this is really exciting because you get to like look at everything and the big board of like, all right, what do we absolutely need to change? Like we have to start there, and then what's nice to change, and then maybe what would be a nice detailed touch. And most of the work, obviously has to go to fixing those huge glaring issues. But when you're working in a game that has so much history and so many small options, that list is always long and always shuffling around.
Yeah.
And so that's why playtesting is so important, because we may not have even, like, in the wake of, like, trying to fix how this thing looks, we may not have even noticed the 25 feet, like, speed penalty, and if we want to keep that.
Yeah, that's a very true statement. Like, there's a lot of little numbers that hide in things that I think as a language we're used to. And I mean the love language of like the mechanics of 5e, not English language that I'm speaking now, but we don't realize that maybe it was something that should change. Maybe the designer made that for a reason and now it's outdated, or it didn't work and just was so baked in it needs to change now.
This is why playtesting is so important, y'all. This is why this is so great, and it really is a community effort.
The other one that I think is a very important question. Will kobolds be a core playable species in Black Flag?
I will say right now, we are all sitting here at the team hedging our bets on what is going to happen, because if you take the playtest packet, there is a question in there, what lineages would you like to see in this game? And we are absolutely going to use that feedback to guide our decisions. Kobold is an option on that list, so make sure to take the playtest packet feedback, go to the forum, and vote for what you want to see in this game.
I'm excited about that. I want kobolds. I asked when I joined the team if I get a breath weapon. That's what I asked.
I mean, there's been absolutely some discussions. Like, let's see, is it the time of the kobold to subvert, the dragonborn? Is this a time? Is the revolution here? I don't know. Maybe it depends. It depends what you all say on the survey.
Yeah, so I'm definitely down for that. Is it still possible to play test the theurge, and how is another question we had there for deep magic? I must have missed.
So we have moved out of play testing. So the next time the theurge appears, it will be in the PDF version of it'll be final. So playtesting has closed for that, unfortunately. But I mean, it will be coming. When the Deep Magic 2 PDF drops.
Yes. Can't say when.
Can't say when. I can't remember what it said on the Kickstarter page, but if you go to the Kickstarter page,
there's a release on there.
It will tell you when that is happening.
Someone said, how can my feedback reach you the best? The best feedback, one, playtest form. Two, in our Discord, people are chatting all the time. There's a chance we'll see it. Don't direct ping us though. Man, I woke up to 2,000 DMs today.
I am getting emails every day from people I don't know.
I wrote a bot script
saying that here is what should go in the game, and I'm like, how did this happen?
I feel like I need a Capacha for them to see if they're a real person is where we're at.
Yeah, I need that on my email box.
Right.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah, but the feedback form is absolutely the 100% the best, because we are 100% always able to look at that and planning on looking at that. And then just the Discord is a good place, especially if you want to chat with others or have like questions.
Yep.
A lot of other readers too are, already becoming masters of this stuff and able to answer questions. And Zach, who is our Discord like guru, is really great.
Yes.
At managing things and handling questions.
With that said, let's scroll down a little bit here, and then I have some questions for you. I just want to answer a couple other ones that are in here. Let's see here. It says, I noticed there was quite a few questions in Discord for this, but was there a layout planning on remaining like this, or was there going to be adjustments as packets come out? Mainly due to some people feeling the layout pushes heritage to be ties to specific lineages, despite that not being the intention.
Yeah, so that is really interesting. So that kind of feedback is super helpful. So I will say this is a playtest packet. Everything is subject to change. Literally none of this could appear in the final game. A lot of it will, but the
You're
layout,
never sleeping if that's the case.
Especially things like that are going to be something that we're playing with and developing. So that kind of feedback is so helpful, because we did arrange it in this way, basically so new players would know kind of where to go. They would have a natural progression of like, okay, so if somebody is scared and playing D&D for the first time, they're like, I don't know, I'll be a dwarf. A stone, whatever. It's right there, So that was the intention behind it, just to make it easier for new players to not have to sort through a bunch of options. But it is really interesting that people are saying, hi, this doesn't work because it seems to push this one idea. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I guess that's going to be a thing that comes down to, like, are we doing this to help new players? Is this hampering new players? Is this doing? So it's really that kind of feedback is stuff that, like, you know, we may not have thought of. So we're absolutely considering that. And it's definitely already on my board of like, ooh, yeah, gotta look at this, like, you know, in the next iteration.
And obviously, you know, we are looking at things, and if people are super vocal about something in one of the playtest packets when we get our stuff in, don't be surprised if you see something on blog posts, if someone comes on here, if we talk about it. Like, you got to give us time. There's only 24 hours in a day. And we are all like splitting our efforts to make sure everything turns out the way you all want and how we want it to work and make it function. But there is a big picture. I trust Celeste has a big picture, and that's what all the packets are for.
A big old beautiful picture.
A big old beautiful Kobold picture.
Yeah. And I will say too, I think it came up in chat, but it's worth repeating. Kobold Press is a very small team. And it's really interesting. Really interesting and kind of flattering that, like, for this playtest, we are getting held to the standard of a company like Wizards of the Coast, which has millions and millions and millions of dollars and tons of employees.
We do not.
The fact that we're on that shiny pedestal is really exciting, and we want to do you proud at every turn, and we are doing our best. There's like 12 of us.
There's dude, it's crazy. Like, everyone is wearing multiple hats. This isn't a one hat team. So there's a couple in here. What else have we got here? Will there be any possible movement towards better crafting, downtime, alchemy uses? I asked because you mentioned Deep Magic 2 being compatible, and this is in it. I would say watch for other packets, but you are a smart cookie.
I will say one of the big goals of this project is to make this system easier for GMs to run. I think right now the burden is way too heavy on the DM in 5e as it exists. So things like tools, systems, guidance for economy, these are things that Kobold Press has done a lot of playing around with in our books, and we are absolutely unplaying.
We get to compile now.
Exactly, the greatest hits, and making this an easier game for GMs to run.
I think that's the biggest burden. Like, as a GM, I run things very differently. I make aftermath notes. I am very freeform in how I do stuff. But I have tables let me know at levels what works, because I'm going to be honest, 5e has a lot of issues in CRs and monsters and hit points.
I mean,
and reactions. A big boss just gets downed in one round if you don't have reactions. So
and people are worried a lot too about, because, you know, in this first packet we did say like a 5e character is stronger, or a Black Flag character is a little stronger than a 5e character right at the
heroic
gate.
Fantasy.
But I think But I think what people are missing is that Kobold Press, if there's one thing we do well, it's make good monsters. So you might be scared about power creep on the player side, but I assure you, things are happening as well on the GM side to make it so it's not that sad experience of like, awesome boss monster, shut down first round, you know, because I was soloing. Like, there's a lot of thought going in on that side of things as well, that it's just can't wait to share it all with you in these packets that are coming out.
There's some other really good ones. I have a feeling I'm going to have to reopen this chat and grab a bunch of them for us at a later,
questions are great,
date.
Everybody.
So someone asked, what about a proficiency die? Are we going to see a proficiency
die? I can say.
Did we do that in a previous product before or something? Or was it?
We have not. It's a very popular homebrew rule
that
I've seen a lot. We'll see. We'll see what happens with what we're doing with proficiency bonus in where basically when we get to like the really meaty like game rule packet. But currently right now we're looking at a relatively similar model for proficiency bonus. Blowing it up though in a few ways.
And
again,
how it works.
All in the name of making sure that you do not have to throw away your 5e product.
Yeah,
so there are going to have to be some global stuff that does stay relatively close.
Yeah, one of my biggest problems I've always had is how skills function. And the fact that proficiency makes you perfect at something and non-proficiency makes you a bumbling idiot. And I know nothing about the design. This is just me as someone who's been doing this for ages. I'm like, God, this is it doesn't feel good.
It's so right now in two, it's hard to understand. Like if you go and you read the skills section of the PHB, well, there isn't one, by the way.
I was
It's
gonna say, what are
nested
you
under
talking
ability
about?
scores,
It's under
which is
ability
like
scores.
why. And then
Antiquated design.
so the way everything in the PHB for 5e is done is just so unfriendly. So another huge goal is to make things friendlier, streamline language. I'm not sure if you notice. I mean, those people are going, "Oh no, this packet looks too much like 5e." We did step-by-step character creation in like a page and a half. The PHB does it in like 6, 7.
Yeah, so it looks similar because this isn't final layout. This is so it's digestible. Like 2-column format is a standard. The last thing you want to do is shake up how someone consumes content this early in the game. We'll do that kind of stuff a little further along if we decide to make those kind of changes. But look, you can't pick layout. It's a playtest pack. And if you do, I mean, I guess enjoy your tea. Like, I don't know what to say. But we're going to do more later on. I will say someone says kobolds and top hats must happen. I have an idea for that.
I mean, of course obviously.
The obviously rule proficiency dice. There was another one is why are feet still competing? Yeah, competing with ability score increases. Why not give them both to players?
So I will say this has also been a really interesting piece of feedback that we really were watching closely. And the way the feedback is shaping up, that might be something that changes.
I think it comes to the fact that there are boring levels and no one wants a boring level.
No one wants a boring level. Yeah, that's something huge that we're doing. Just make it less boring. Like, make fighters not all feel exactly the same, right? All the time, especially at higher levels where I feel like in a lot of instances, you know, this is talked about all the time, but 5e just kind of went, eh.
Look, you can swing a sword or a weapon and have a board.
Past level 10?
Yeah.
Or is anybody doing it? I don't know.
Yup. And the next question on here from Sassy was, will you adjust the status of martial classes so that they feel better compared to spellcasters?
Oh, hell yeah. That's it.
That's it. That's all she wrote. That's it.
Yeah.
Goodbye, everybody. No, I think that's as someone like in real life, I was a bodyguard for 13 years. When I read martial classes, my brain went, no.
Oh, man.
Like in the old stuff, I'm like, man, this doesn't feel good. But you don't want the crunch to slow down the game.
Right. Yeah, but it's got to feel good.
There's no impact.
Like,
there's nothing.
And so I will say, like, for those in the know, 3.5, I mean, Book of Blades is one of my favorite books. And keep your eye as well on some of the stuff that we're, you know, looking at for things like our Book of Blade blog series and some of the stuff we've done in Dome of Heroes. And I can assure you, we've got thoughts.
Here, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. I have something very important to do right now. Okay, I'm gonna put you on solo cam. I'm gonna ask you a question because I think I know what your answer is gonna be for this.
Okay.
And I feel like it'd be doing a disservice if I don't do it.
Okay.
Celeste, would you say that if people were to go through our back catalog of all the things we've made over the years and saw the highlight and best moments of just the amazing stuff that Kobold Press has made, that's probably where you should start looking to get these questions answered?
Oh, hell yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
Cool.
Kobold Press has been making really good stuff for a really long time, and it would be foolish of us not to use the systems that have done well, made games awesome, and made our products awesome for the last few years.
Bingo! That's what I thought. I thought you would say that. I wasn't sure, but I had a feeling that was going to be what it was.
Well, and I mean, I'm biased as well because I've been freelancing for Kobold Press and writing for their books forever. So, I mean...
That is amazing. Now watch, you're going to start getting you're going to get columns and paragraph numbers from books.
Listen,
are we going to be using Rule 6 from
spreadsheet? So, I mean, you can absolutely see. I mean, we've already done this for folks who like looking at the dwarf here. Fireforge was a sunrise option that appeared in Tome of Heroes, and we've reimagined it for this.
Is it up here?
For
here
this
we go.
Product. So you can absolutely look forward to seeing more things like that because I mean, we're here again. We're making this for you folks who love 5th edition and love Kobold Press's take on 5th edition. So, of course, we're going to take the things that you love and make sure that they're a cornerstone of what we create.
Yeah, and this is a great question, actually. I was thinking the same thing. I have an idea, but it would be great to hear an answer from you. So in the playtest packet, it mentions that making a 5e character equivalent, you should give them a free feat or talent. Is that specifically because of the change in how backgrounds work?
Yes, because in backgrounds, and I will say our talents in Black Flag definitely have a little bit more punching power than your standard 5e feats. So we would like to say just go ahead and give them a talent to make them of equivalent power. But the thing is with 5e, because feats were never actually a full part of the game, they're technically an optional rule. And there was never any quality control on feats. I think even Jeremy Crawford has said that, like, there are some feats that you obviously have to take because they're so much better. So we're not going to have talents that are broken like Lucky, but we are going to have some of those, like, 5e feats that we glow up and make better. Like Polyglot in this is like a way better version of some of the feats you can take in 5e.
100%.
So we are fine-tuning and balancing and, like, raising those. But again, so we can't just say, hi DM, like, no, you can't absolutely do, just talents, because some of those 5e feats are so ridiculous that they are equivalent in power to what we're doing, right? So
So is there any other ones in here that we saw? Dot, I see you're in chat. Thank you for helping us mod this. If you see any questions that we didn't hit, let me know. We only got about 8 minutes left. I have a couple of things I want to ask from the press desk side, but there is one here that says, it's scrolling. Stop scrolling. This is what happens when they scroll on you.
Too exciting. Yay.
It's great. That's the best. It means people are at least excited about what we're doing, and that's what we always want.
Yes.
Hi, Serving Hands. She put in our MVP in from my channel. Long story. So is the goal to use small adjustments from each packet to work towards the finalized core rulebook? And then use additional books to add optional rules, or will there be different editions? I don't know if we're far enough to say, yo, we're gonna have 5 editions of a book.
Yeah, I think we're probably far out from that, but definitely with each packet, there is a very strong intention as to the way we are parceling out packets, because a lot of this stuff builds on one another. For instance, if we had gotten like hugely negative response to the stuff in packet 1, we would know that, okay, we can't move on to the other aspects of character creation until this like works. So a lot of your feedback is absolutely influencing, it's the domino effect. So while it's frustrating that we're starting with these small pictures and chunks and people are like, I can't believe it, you're only putting 3 lineages in the whole game? Well, that's absolutely not true. We gave you these 3 because they're kind of the archetypal, human, dwarf, and elf. Like, how much more fantasy can you get? Yeah. And then we're also in the playtest packets, like, asking you what
next? Do you want?
What are the most important things?
We're
going to give it to you.
I would definitely say, if you have not at least looked through the questions we are asking the packet, do it, because some of these are in here, or at least they run in line with them.
Yeah.
And hold on a second here. Just as a note, if you think there's only going to be 3 lineages to play in this game, you out your mind. This is a heroic fantasy system. If we only have 3 of them in here, apparently we're making a zine. I don't know what to say about that, but I promise there's going to be more. We don't have them all done, and we don't want to share them all quite yet. We gotta give you just little bits at a time.
It's the standout, so you can see what's going on here. And if we like what's going on here, we do more of that.
Yes. So, all these questions are great. I have a feeling we should do a real deep dive AMA where we offer people to give questions to us, and we kind of dive through and compile. Maybe that's something we do in the future, maybe on our Discord channel, or we'll do another live here as the packets come out. I'm obviously going to be talking about this a lot. I'm going to be diving into some of this stuff as we move forward, not only with our staff and the people who are making these amazing products, but companies who are joining us as the flag is raised to do this project. So I have a couple really big questions for you as a designer. And this has to do with, these are, you might not have an answer. You might tell me, nah, G, I'm not telling you that.
All right.
Okay.
I'm ready.
In 3.0 and 3.5, and even in Pathfinder, we lived through the years of bloat. And when people talk about, are we going to make another edition or just keep stacking stuff on top in layers until the stack of books is so high you can't even bring them to a convention, or they don't stack anymore, or we're just reprinting things. As a designer, how do you make sure we're just not making the same stuff every time? And is there a way to kind of stop bloat? Like 5e did it, but they just stopped giving us a lot of stuff. That was their answer.
Yeah.
How are we handling that? Do you have any answer for that? Like, how do we handle bloat as a company?
Yeah, so I think this is a huge question, especially when you're looking at something that's kind of like a reworking of an edition. Like, you've got to make something that works like and is very simple as a core model, so people can replicate and add to it, but not in a way that's just like, ooh, that's a problem, more. That's a problem, add more. Okay, we'll add more. So if we have something that works and then becomes really modular, that's sort of the way to do this in a lot of ways. And then building a very strong model that people can work off of for like, hey, we would love if Black Flag gets easier to make adventures for it. Yeah. Because you know what people are always going to need more of? Adventures. You know what people probably don't need more of? 500 new subclasses. So if we can make something where our encounters are stronger, it's easier to build things like exploration. It's easier. We make more easy tools for GMs to run cool encounters. Then that's going to encourage people to follow up in those veins that are sustainable, as opposed to just making more options. And of course, if the options themselves are really cool, like if Fighter is so cool out of the gate, we're gonna need less people just remaking Fighters, all over again. So that's the goal, I guess. Like, get the really basic model that works, and make it easier to do the things that you want to see more of.
Someone clip that. Someone clip that for us. That's a great answer to this, and it follows into the second kind of difficult question again, which is adventures. So at a table, on average, is 1 GM to 5 players. You got 6 people at a table. That's the standard table size, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
When you make adventures, what does a player get out of it besides getting to play a game? Is there going to be something that runs adjacent to it to make sure? Because I personally dislike, as a GM, that when I'm going to run, let's say you did Frost Maiden. Yeah. I can't give the players their part of the book to look at because it's one packet. Do we have a way to cope with that in Kobold Press where it's like, here's your GM material, here's your players material, they go together? Do we have a plan for that moving with Black Flag?
I think one of the big goals of this, again, it's making it easier for GMs to run on the whole, but there's also the second half of that is empowering players to feel more connected to their characters and more a part of the world. So by making skills maybe interact a little bit better with exploration, by making talents that really do focus on things that aren't actually just combat. You're opening up a door where players feel like they have more agency to engage with the story and the world. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but in that playtest packet, like in one of the first sentences, it's like, hi, talk to the other players at your table and your GM about your character concept. Where does it say things like that in the PHP?
Teach session 0, man.
Building in those kind of things to train basically a new generation of players, like you're part of the game too. I think will have a huge ripple out impact on the way we traditionally think about adventuring and encounters and building these stories together.
So fair to say that we're definitely going to break the mold in how we see adventures come out of a company then.
We are certainly trying. We really want, again, because how do you make things easier for the GM? Yeah. You get the players more involved.
Fact, skin in the game. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I know it's a business thing to say, but it's so true. Players' skin in the game is super true. And then my last follow-up to that, before we kind of close out today, and thanks again for coming on, because this is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
This was a great way to actually get the chill.
Yeah, I know. It's nice to have an informal chat in front of,
it's formal.
Viewers,
it's
formal.
That's fine. It's formal. It doesn't feel formal, though, and that's the point. So I love all the design stuff. I love that we are putting out, like, your monster books, obviously. I say our monster books are some of the best monster books I've seen. And 4th edition is honestly one of my favorite monster books of all time.
4th edition has so much cool stuff.
We learned a lot from
it. Favorite magic item books.
Good and bad.
Good stuff.
Good and bad. I mean, we got ritual casting out of that. We got passive perception out of that. Skill challenges.
It's the only class that ever made me want to play an artificer. The only edition.
So my question following up to that, moving forward with Black Flag, is when we are designing, and this was in chat, I saw you, combat needs to be engaging but not drag down the game. There's nothing worse than the momentum. You blow your entire spell wad at the beginning of the game, and then you sit around and cast cantrips for 5 rounds.
Or
these are huge problems. Fighters blow all of their abilities, rangers, clerics, you name it. It's so front-loaded, but the combat doesn't scale correctly with it, and it drags instead of ending when people lose all their power. So do we have some form of a new way we're going to handle combat to make it engaging, fast? I love cinematic combat. I know it's not for everybody, but we're in an age where I feel indie development has changed the perspective of what combat should be, and the amount of, honestly, streaming Netflix, Hulu, TV series, the perspective of a GM and how they tell a tale has changed.
Yeah.
They're more of a director and producer than they are a number cruncher and an arbitrary person. There are people who still run that way, but 5e is not quite that. It's kind of this weird merger between. So, Black Flag, combat, are we going to see this change for us? I know you can't give details, but is it going to be different?
So, as part of our goal to make this easier to run and I think more exciting, we are absolutely going to be introducing some things to make combat, to be able give the GM, I think, more agency in combat, during combat, to be able to change things. I know, like, that's always a big thing. People come to me all the time. They're like, how the heck do I make an encounter that's not too challenging? CR is a nightmare. What's going on? So looking at those, like, core problems that will empower GMs to be able to work with the system more cleverly is going to be a big thing. Introducing things we've previewed some stuff like, ooh, what's luck points? Oh, is that a mechanic that maybe we'll be able to influence things? Perhaps. Do we have things planned for that, like the GM? Absolutely. So having more tools, more options, more ways to empower people to make combat punchy and exciting is absolutely something we are striving for.
So some seasoning to the sauce. It's not going to just taste bland. You're going to have some options. Like old school, we used to do escalation dice was a big thing for a long time in design. And that was a really cool concept. I know MCDM is kind of playing with something similar to that with their chaos die. But we're going to see some combat love, and then is the goal to not make it drag out for 10 rounds in 4 hours of your entire session?
No. So, and I mean, we're being, what I really like about the kind of the language and framing that we're going for with Black Flag is being really direct and more friendly in our language. So you can even see that in playtest packet 1. Again, like that example, like, hi, talk to your players about this. And you know, here we go. Even when we're talking about, like, we put milestones in there as like a core option for the way to level and say, hi, if your players want story, they don't really care about fighting stuff, use this system. So we're going to have things like that throughout. Like, hi, combat is built to only last 3 rounds. We're just going to say that in the book. You know, like everybody, it's the secret knowledge, right, that everybody has. But a combat that takes more than 3 rounds should be something really special and probably unique. Because I don't know about you, my players don't have an attention span that'll last longer than that.
I had to take their phone away half the time.
They start getting snacks, and that's, you know.
I think. So for me, kind of closing us out. First off, thank you all for joining us today. Celeste, thank you for joining and having a sit down and a tea and coffee. We'll have to do some drinks at a con soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then thanks to the audience. These questions are awesome. If we did not hit your question today, don't think we don't care. It's because that chat is moving fast. And I look at the camera and look back and everything is gone. I'm going to scroll back through chat. I'm going to grab some questions. Fill out your play test packet
and I
survey.
promise you, we are seeing it all and we are hearing your voices, and it's gonna make this game better. So thank you.
Yeah, and that's the game plan. We want to make something we're all proud of and happy on both sides. On the Kobold, the Warrens are for everybody.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for doing this and taking your time out of your day from designing what I'm assuming to be packet 2.
I am going back to working on packet 2 right after this. Indeed.
So stay on the call here. Say bye, everybody. Where can they follow you and find you? Do you have like a design blog or anything like that you still do?
I don't now, but I mean, I will be moving forward, and you know, keep an eye out for some announcements. But we definitely want to be better about explaining what we're doing here, and here we go. Like, what's up? So you'll be hearing more from me. Keep your eye on the blog, and sign up for our newsletter to see if there's more. But otherwise, you can follow me personally on Twitter at CConowitch. But yeah, keep your eyes on the newsletter for all the awesome stuff we're doing.
Conowitch crumble cookies. It's gonna be a spell, everybody.
It's gonna do it. Conowitch's witch cookies. Coming soon.
So let me quit over, stay in the wings for a minute. I'll be right back with you. Everybody, if you enjoyed our chat today and you like what we're doing here, there's a few things that you can do. 1, get your playtest packet. 2, remember, constructive criticism. We're editing it as we go. We already got 1.1 out. Get your surveys in by the 27th. That is the cutoff for packet 1. Once that's done, we won't be doing a packet 1 survey again. We're moving forward. This is a train. We're not stopping. On top of all of those things, Deep Magic closes this Friday. If you're looking to get a hold of these amazing amount of spells, new classes, and new ways to play your favorite D20 game, pick it up, back it, make that so we can make more amazing stuff for you. And everybody, if you are watching this on YouTube right now, somewhere on this side here, there's going to be a piece that says, watch these other videos. Do that. And then over here, click the subscribe so you can be notified when we're doing stuff. Turn the bell on, get all the notifications, because since I'm on board, I can tell you we're going to be having stuff come out all the time. Thank you so much for watching us today. And remember, you're part of the Warrens here at Kobold Chat. If you have any questions, join us in our Discord and ask away. We'll see what we can do for you. That's all for today, everybody. See you next Wednesday, an hour earlier, and maybe an hour longer. We'll see. Bye, everybody.